Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Yes, we made it. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, December 7th, 2025, coming at you live from Florida Media here in Rockville Center. We have an outstandingly, amazingly insane show coming up for you tonight. That's right. Arthur Stabile couldn't make it down tonight, but OG co-host of Hockey Night in New York, Mr. Tony Stabile, is with me tonight. He's in the saddle. Tony, great to have you. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, bro. Thanks so much for having me down here. It's you got a great setup, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, great stuff. And Arthur Stabile will be joining us actually in just a few minutes to talk New York Islanders. So we obviously have a lot to catch up with, but want to tell you about our wonderful sponsors before we do break for Mr. Arthur Stabile. We are proud to be sponsored by Knock Hockey, the all-time classic. Made in the USA. Get your board at knockhockey.com. And right now they have a flash sale going on for Christmas. 20% off all Stars and Stripes games. That will be running from December 9th through the 15th. And that includes Knock Hockey boards as well. So go to knockhockey.com to get yours today in time for the holidays. Also, we're proud to be sponsored by Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein, attorneys at law ready to fight for you. Check them out at razorandkniff.com. That is RAISERANDKENNIFF.com for a free consultation. And folks, if you're hanging out with us in the chat and you want to get some questions in for Questions Brewing later on in the show, type in Questions Brewing, followed by your question, and we will answer it at the end of the show. So, Tony, real quick, before we break for Arthur Stabile, I've been meaning to ask you this for a very long time. How does it feel to be Tony Stabile?
Well, this is we're living in a different world, pal.
Yes, we are.
We are living in a different world. We went from last season where everything seemed like it was trending towards a complete rebuild and, moving on and trying to, shuffle the roster and whatnot. And what happens? You win the draft lottery, and boy, the fortunes have changed. You have prospects now. You have a youthful energy about this team. Culture change. You have all different kinds of social media outlets, and you're seeing more behind the scenes. Matthew Darsh has come in and has done a really great job. Patrick Well looks completely reinvigorated behind the bench. You got to love it. You got to love the way things have been going. I mean, barring tonight and everything, but this week has been a really good week for this team.
No, it has. It's a lot of fun. We'll get into the recaps later, but Arthur Stabile is going to be joining us. So I want to thank you all for tuning in to Hockey Night in New York live here from Florida Media in Rockville Center. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, Arthur's going to join us on the other side.
Remember the game Knock Hockey from when we were kids? It's an absolute legendary game that they stopped making a couple years ago. However, it's back, baby. You can go to knockhockey.com, that's N-O-K hockey.com, and get it for your kids or your nieces and nephews or some random neighborhood kid, because they're all going to need it, because otherwise they're going to be playing video games for the next 6 months. And if you don't have kids, get it for yourself, or better yet, your girlfriend. She'll be hurt and confused at first, but once she starts slamming that puck around, she's going to love you forever, or at least the game. Go to knockhockey.com. It's a little pricey, I'm not going to lie, but it's made with real wood by hand in Michigan. When's the last time you heard of a product being made like that? This holiday season, be an absolute legend, make everyone happy, bring the family together. Go to knockhockey.com.
Attention all artists, storytellers, and creators of all kinds. It's time to make your content stand out above the rest, and Florida Media is the place to make your visions become a reality. Maybe you want to elevate your podcast and add some video, or turn that novel you wrote into an audiobook, or maybe you just need the right space to produce your daily vlog. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, Florida Media has the professional facilities, exceptional staff, and intimate atmosphere to breathe life into your creative passions at every step of the process.
Hope you enjoyed the ads. Now let's get back to Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, folks. Let's get back to Hockey Night in New York. It is time for On the Line, presented by Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein, attorneys at law, ready to fight for you. And joining us is co-host of Hockey Night in New York, but he's hanging at home tonight, Mr. Arthur Stabile. Arthur, thanks for coming on, bud. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Tony, you look nice and comfortable in that seat. I love to see it, man.
Oh, thank you, bro. It's very nice to be here, but I'm just keeping it warm for you for next week.
So, Arthur, let's dive in. Obviously, despite today's result here, a successful week for the Islanders. Pretty much playing seesaw hockey here. Up 1 week, on the road, come back home. They have a rough week to start the little homestand, but now you play some heavyweights in Tampa Bay. You get 2 wins out of them. You get a win over Colorado, only their second regulation loss for them. What do you make of this seesaw hockey that the Islanders are playing now?
We've been talking about it all year long. You want to see them get some consistency, but I think maybe this is the most consistent we're going to get. So you get as much out of each week as you can. We know Tampa's really depleted in terms of their roster. No Kucherov, no Vasilevsky yesterday. Who cares? You play what's in front of you. And I think the Islanders played both those games really well because Tampa's a tough team to play against. They weren't pretty, but you get 4 points out of it. They get 0, even more important when you're playing a team in the conference. And the Colorado game seemed like it was one that was going to be filled with a lot of emotion with Brock Nelson coming back, as we talked about last week. And, there was some emotion, but I feel like the Islanders really channeled it in a good way. They didn't kind of wait to see what Colorado was going to deliver because you know what they bring every night, which is incredible speed. They throw tons of pucks on net. They can really, outskill you in a lot of different areas. Islanders took it right to them. And it was, to me, it was the most impressive game they played all year, the way that they attacked, didn't sit back, didn't wait for Colorado to dictate the pace of the game, and made Colorado chase them. Really exactly what you want to see out of the Islanders.
Yeah, I agree, Arthur. And the funny part about this is that you come into this week. Tampa had won 7 straight. You had Colorado that hadn't had points in 17 straight. They take two of the games from Tampa. They take the game with Colorado, and then they come out today and they, listen. I know you're playing the Stanley Cup champs, but they didn't exactly look like they had earlier in the week. Is it a little bit of fatigue from these emotional games, you think, or is it more of just as they were bound to have a stinker in there?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of factors. To me, it looks like, in Florida had that wild one the day before with 7-6 game against Columbus. That was, they rallied from 3 goals down. They're still the Panthers, even though they've been down at the bottom of the standings all year. They can still look the way that they look today. And yeah, I think fatigue is going to be an issue all throughout this crazy condensed schedule, especially until we get to the Olympic break. You're going to see maybe a little bit, disjointed, a little bit lifeless. To the Islanders' credit, I think that was maybe you could count 1 or 2 other times when they've looked that way all season. They've been in every game. Sean, you and I have talked about it a lot. They're never really out of it. They really play with a lot of passion. It's not always channeled in the right way. It doesn't always seem to produce a lot in some of these games where they feel a little frustrated, but they're never really out of it. And they really, even today when they were down 2-0, you thought, all right, the dads are there. They're down in Florida. They're coming back. It just sort of felt like, all right, if they throw in the towel here, it's fine. Then they come up with a goal and they try to keep it close, getting into the third where they seem to really lose steam. But, I think it's just going to be part of this season with not only with pretty big injuries to a lot of teams, even a lot of contending teams. And I think maybe just once out of every 5 or 6 games, you're going to have a clunker. And whether you can get a point or 2 out of it, they couldn't tonight. But I still feel like the way that this team plays, when I look around at some of the other teams in the East, I watch a lot of Rangers, I watch a lot of Devils. Those teams get blown out in games because they're just not there mentally and physically. The Islanders haven't had that happen very often. So I feel like this is definitely going to be a one-off for them.
Yeah, and Arthur, with that in mind, now that the Islanders hit the 30-game mark here, I think it's safe to say now that this team is for real, right? This is essentially the team we're going to be looking at probably as long as they do stay a little more healthy, from this point out until the end of the season. And, you can accept 1 clunker, every 6 games, right? That's not so bad. So you agree with me there? You think this team is pretty much what we're seeing now? We'll see that through game 82?
Yeah, obviously the injury factor seems to, have a huge impact on a lot of teams. And that, I think unlike some other teams that maybe feel like they're contenders this year, I don't think it's going to change the plans. We've certainly heard from lots and lots of the listeners in the Questions Bruin segment about, are they going to do this? Are they going to add? Are they going to reward these guys for the kind of the unexpected start they have? I don't think so. And I don't even think some more injuries, even one to maybe a key guy, would really kind of pull Matthew Darsh off of his plan, which is to evaluate, to see what they've got with their core, not to sacrifice any of their future assets because they've got some really good ones. They want to see what they have in some of those guys that are going to maybe turn pro at the end of their amateur seasons in the spring. So, yeah, you hope, knock on wood, that they can stay healthy, because I think it's going to be a war of attrition in terms of bodies among teams that are contending in the East. And I think, they've got it in their DNA right now. They play fast. They don't stop when they get down a couple goals. It's not like it used to be the last few years where you just never thought that they could, even get one puck over a goal line if their lives depended on it. Now, they score 6 on 5. They score when they're down. They create a lot of chances. They can rely on their goaltender. Even in a losing effort today, I thought David Riddick was really good. They've got 2 goalies that are playing at a really strong, above average level. There's some spots there where you'd like to see them improve, maybe get a little bit better depth on D. But I think for right now, yeah, this is who they are. And, and when I talk to people who don't always watch the Islanders, some of those national reporters or former players who don't always pay attention or just kind of used to hand wave them away and say, it's the Islanders, I don't need to pay attention. When they watch, they're impressed. They see a fun team. And I think that's going to keep them not only churning forward throughout the season, but maybe in the spotlight a little bit more with Matthew Schaefer and Matthew Barzal and maybe Bo Horvat going to the Olympics. I think the attention is going to be on the Islanders in a good way, where it hasn't always been that way the last few years.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I know we were, I was talking to Sean the other day, and we were saying, like, this is it's like a different world now that we're in, and seeing the way that these guys have come together, and they're just playing a different style of hockey. And I feel like it's like a new legacy almost, where you have Darsh come in, and he's made some changes, but I think the biggest thing that he's done is that they haven't had in years past, they have depth. You have guys go down, and you have new guys who can come in and play right away. I mean, you had Gatcombe playing in the minors, and now he's come up, and he's a spark plug kind of a player, and he's perfect for that fourth line. And I feel like Casey is really kind of come back and really kind of saved himself. He was when I was really good early on, but I mean, Arthur, I think you would agree. Like this is the year where you've had some injuries, and you've had guys be able to step up and actually kind of seamlessly go in and play.
Yeah, JG Pageau is close to returning. Jonathan Drouin seems like it's kind of a day-to-day thing, so maybe he'll be back next week. You're going to have 2 guys come out of the lineup when those 2 guys get back that don't deserve to come out, whether it's Gatcombe and McLean. I feel like there's some real decisions to make, and I think maybe you're going to see some guys come out of the lineup where you're going to say, whoa, I never thought this guy would be a healthy scratch. I'm watching a guy like Simon Holmstrom, who's had a tough one today, and I think has maybe not been as in sync without Pageau there as he could be in the last couple of weeks. Pageau comes back and they don't click right away. I think you could see Holmstrom taking a seat for a game. These are things that when they didn't have that kind of depth, you'd say, come on, this is a young guy. You want to see him develop. He's got to be out there. I don't think anything's guaranteed anymore, and that's also the sign of a team that's headed in trending in the right direction, that guys are playing their roles. I know that Simon Holmstrom is a better player than Gatcombe or McLean, but that fourth line has got a little something going this last week or two, and I don't think you want to necessarily break it up because you want them to play that certain role. So, yeah, it's a good problem to have. It'll drive some people crazy, seeing some people that might not play, but I think that's a good thing, and we got to kind of takes you back a little bit to maybe about a decade ago when they had a really good deep forward group in that 14-15 15-16 stretch where you were like, okay, some guys are going to have to sit because other guys are going well, and it's just the way it goes. And some people be mad about it because these are longtime Islanders, people that they've grown to like. But you got to deal with it, and you got to accept that on a good team, not everybody gets to play because of who they are or where they were drafted or how many games they played for the organization.
Yeah, Arthur, I agree. It's kind of a nice luxury to be able to kind of plug guys in and out, as they're playing well, and guys, maybe they just need a view from the press box every now and then. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. But to talk about some guys that have kind of elevated and rediscovered their game, Pelech and Pulock, we've been talking about those guys over the course of the season, and all of a sudden you have Pelech, who looks like classic Pelech right now, and Ryan Pulock after today, he's leading the team in assists here. So these are guys who we might have been a little concerned about heading in. I, of course, made my jokes about the injuries. They've stayed healthy, knock on wood. But and
That's it for them
especially
now.
I know. But you look at how they're playing, and especially with Romanov going down and him even struggling before he did. Obviously, the pairing with him and D'Angelo weren't looking great, but now they've been split up. They look great with their partners now, and it's kind of, I'm not saying the defense is not necessarily a concern anymore, but it's certainly, in a much better spot than I think we were looking at it earlier on in the season, right?
Yeah, and I think when they started the season with those two guys as a pair, we thought, okay, they've got to be able to prop each other up. I don't know that you're going to see them get back to that level that they were at, and I think splitting them up highlighted what a good season Pelech is having, because he is, helping Tony D'Angelo, who was really down, in terms of all the metrics when he was with Romanov. So that pairing is, has helped stabilize a guy in D'Angelo, who I think a lot of people wanted to see take a seat. And then Pulock has been a really good complement to Schaefer, because Pulock can handle the big minutes when he's healthy. He can move the puck pretty well. I mean, I think moving the puck to Schaefer doesn't involve a lot of, thinking. You just give him the puck and he does something great. So that's working out, and it's certainly working out production-wise for Pulock too. But I think having that balance, you can offset the loss of Romanov. You've got a top four that can play a lot of minutes. And yeah, I think you're right on. The biggest development for me these last 2-3 weeks in terms of their total team defense is seeing Adam Pelech become, 2019, 2020 Adam Pelech, a guy who, when he's on the ice, he is, a throwback kind of stopper. I thought he, had a really good game against Colorado. Obviously got the goal, the first one, and whatever, 150 games, total gift from Mackenzie Blackwood. But offensively, the best play he made was getting up on the rush on Anders Lee's goal, kind of taking that center drive, taking some bodies with him. That's not something you usually see from him. And I think he's feeling some confidence too with the way that he's playing defensively, that he can get up, he's turning pucks over. They've got the ability to rush up the ice now. They want to play up the ice. And I think if you're going to play a lot of minutes, you got to be a part of that. So also a good development to see from him. And yeah, I think, what we've seen from a guy like Travis Mitchell, love seeing the little, the scrappiness. He's not backing down from anybody. I think he's a pretty capable 6, 7, and 8 type guy. Scott Mayfield is what he is at this point. I think he's going to commit his penalties. He's going to kill them off. He's going to do what he does. Boquist kind of rotating in there. I think you can get by with kind of a hodgepodge third pair when you've got these top two pairs playing as well as they've been.
Yeah.
One thing I feel like doesn't get talked about enough is Ilya Sorokin and really the turnaround with him. We saw he struggled second half of last season. This year he came in, he did not look like the vintage Ilya Sorokin the first 5 or 6 starts that he had. And then they fire Piero Greco and they bring in a new goalie coach, bring him from Bridgeport, a guy who Sorokin had worked with before. And he's been his old self the last spell here. Arthur, talk about what you've seen from Sorokin and what the change would be from going from Greco to the new coach.
It's always hard to quantify it. I think we've talked about it. Sean and I have. Sergei Namovs is a guy that Sorokin has known pretty much his whole professional career since he was a teenager. So I'd imagine even just having him in Bridgeport, even if he was back in Russia, I'm sure that Sorokin, with Piero Greco's blessing, would be still consulting with Sergei Namovs, because that's the guy he's most comfortable with, and they speak the same language. I think there's a lot of things that would make him kind of an extra resource, even when that's not his main goalie coach. I would imagine that there's something that Matthew Darsh and Chris Lamoriello and Ryan Bonas saw, maybe that there needed to be a little bit more comfort on a day-to-day basis, a little bit more interaction. I think having David Riddick and even Semyon Varlamov, who are also, Eastern Europeans, I think that helped that situation as well. And I think, you don't want to put too much on saying, this one assistant coach, position coach is the reason that Sorokin has turned it around. I think Sorokin knows that he has to turn it around. He knows he has to be a guy who steals wins for them, because he is one of the top 5 or 6 goalies in the league. And he set that established level. And when he drops down below that, we can see the results, and the team is just not as good. So I don't know if you can put it all on the goalie coach switch. It does seem to coincide pretty well numbers wise with the turnaround. So I'm sure that it's a definite factor. But to me, the biggest factor is Ilya Sorokin, I think, has understood and accepted that, especially the way that they want to play and have played this year, where they're going to give up chances. They're not going to be a lockdown defense and try to win every game 2-1 like they used to. He's got to come up with some grade A saves, and there's going to be 5 to 10 high danger chances a night, and he's got to be able to come up with 90 to 95% of them for them to win. So I'm sure that it's a combination of factors, but it certainly helps to have his old goalie coach there.
Yeah, he's certainly playing a lot better. That is for damn sure. And Arthur, last night against Tampa, we got another taste of Calum Ritchie's skill there with that amazing goal late in the third period. Just maybe just talk about how he's coming along. It seems a little more slowly. Obviously, all the attention, all the excitement is around Schaefer, but Ritchie's performed well in his own right too. So maybe just talk about how he's been doing.
I think when they made that trade, the people you talk to who have assessed this, his play, or maybe kind of tracked him into his draft year a couple of years ago, saw him maybe the highest ceiling you could see if everything went absolutely correct. Great for him was a number 2 center, more likely a number 3 center, and I think the way that he plays, he just seems to be a very, very smart young guy. He knows the positions he needs to be in. I think he knows the situations where certain things are required, certain things are not. He's not a gambler. He doesn't try to make a super fancy play to show off his skills. But that one right there, I think he sort of identified in that moment, like, I'm not going to get this puck anywhere near where I need it to get if I just kind of pull it off the wall and go backhand, forehand, and try to jam it through Johansson's pads. So he went between the legs. He tried to go upstairs. It worked. And I think when you get that kind of highlight reel, it's funny, like Matthew Schaefer's highlight reels are, this kid is doing things that no one else can do. For Cal Ritchie, I think he's doing things that a guy 10 years older than him does, which is just be as smart as you can be in the right spots, win a few draws, play hard when he needs to. I think you go back to the pass that he made too, the setup, I think it was to Duclair a few games ago. His vision is really, really strong. And I think the hockey IQ for him is one of those things that's really off the charts. And to have that at such a young age, I think you can grow your skill level a little bit too as you get through your 20s. So maybe the draft experts and some of the scouts have underestimated him. Maybe he can be a very solid number 2 center for this team. And at the very least, I think he's sort of established himself now with all the reps that he's had. Pajot comes back. Maybe you could see a situation where he and Pajot are sort of like 2A and 2B, or 3A and 3B centers, kind of splitting some of the offense-defense responsibilities on their own lines. And you can move Matthew Barzal back up to that line with Bo Horvat. Because I think we've seen, like we were mentioning, Holmstrom's taken a little bit of a step back. Emil Heineman, I think, has cooled off a bit. I think this is a good time of year for Barzal and Horvat to reunite, kind of put, probably the 2 best forwards that they've got right now, put them together for a little bit more of the time at 5-on-5, see what they can do. And then you give some more responsibilities to Ritchie and just sort of, I think what you want to do is just keep putting another little bit on his plate and see what he can handle, because if things are going well with him in the lineup, why would you take him out, or why would you move him around?
No, absolutely. And the last one that I have for you, Arthur, is we've seen Matthew Barzal over the last couple of years have to play more of a structured, not so much defensive, but, meaning a more defensively responsible forward. And with this new, high speed, high up-tempo offense that they're playing now, he's a lot of fun to watch. And you saw it the other night in Colorado. He really is able to change a game. Basically anytime he can step on the ice, he can be that that number 1 guy no matter what team he's playing against. He's been fun to watch. Do you see him being this is the kind of play we can expect from him going forward?
I hope so. I feel like I remember a lot of conversations I had with Barry Trotz when he was trying to kind of mold Barzal into more of a 2-way player. And I think the key phrase, and I'm sure Barry has said this about a lot of guys over his long coaching career, is do what I ask you to do in the defensive zone without the puck in the neutral zone. And then when you get the puck in the offensive zone, do what you do, because these responsibilities will lead to your opportunities. And I think we saw some of that last year too, when he moved to the wing, where he became his own offense, get away on breakaways, get up the ice on odd man rushes. Those are defensive skills, stealing pucks and that sort of stuff. So I think maybe it's just kind of the right time in his career, 10 years in, the right coach now in Patrick Waugh, who wants to unleash him a little bit more, as well as the rest of the team. And he can kind of synthesize these things that he's learned and kind of take them into this new era where he's not avoiding or ignoring the defensive responsibilities. I think he understands that has to be a part of your game, no matter what coach you're playing for. But also, he's the most Matthew Barzal we've seen him in a long time. And on the offensive side, the power play goal against Colorado is a pure skill. There's 25 guys in the league maybe that could make that play, cutting down towards the net. Even the one today, I just thought he's not when he's in the middle of the ice, he's not looking around to see who he can flip it off to or make a pass to the wings through three guys, an impossible play. He's looking to score. And that is a huge development. And I feel like, maybe that's a case against what I said earlier. Maybe you keep him as his own line away from Horvat to have two dangerous guys, or, being on the power play, you want him going downhill and attacking more, because when they were struggling, maybe they weren't quite having that full on attack mode that they need. But I think the way that he's playing, if you put in a key situation, him and Horvat out together at 5-on-5, whether it's the end of a period or whatever, kind of like, it's a different stratus, but kind of like what Edmonton does with David and Draisaitl, where you just like load up and you get your big guys all on one line, and I think in past years when they would play together, it was more, all right, well, Barzal is going to try to find Horvat because Horvat's the scorer. If you can have both guys be scorers, that gives a different look to opposing teams. They don't know who to cover. So I feel like the way that he's playing opens up a lot offensively for the team. It opens up a lot offensively for him. And, I think that's all he's ever wanted, is to just be able to be in his position to create as much as he can. And I think he's there now.
Well, Arthur, whether you put Barzal and Horvat together or not, I think at the end of the day, it's nice to have options, right? And before we let you go, just let us know how things are going over there at the Tri-State Hockey Podcast with Johnny Lazarus and Mike Rupp, and give us a little anthem before you go as well.
Tri-State Hockey Pod has been going well. We need to get a little bit more disagreement. I think a little bit more infighting.
Okay.
Rupper's got some great stories from his days playing, and Johnny, seems to know everybody that's come out of the Tri-State area or played college hockey in the last 10 years. But I think overall, maybe we're being a little too nice to each other. I want to see the equivalent of like a Devils Rangers line brawl or some preseason old school Islanders Rangers stuff.
Okay.
So we'll get there.
That'll get viewers.
I think it would. Yeah.
Of all three teams like to be able to mix it up. So we do like that. And my anthem for this week, a little bit of a reminder to everybody in the league that these runs that the Islanders have had shouldn't be totally unexpected now, like they had earlier this week, leaving today out of it. So I'll go with one of my favorite bands, The Hives. Hate to say I told you so. I needed to pick at least one track before the new year that so this was my nod to you.
Much appreciated, Arthur. I do know that track. I happen to like it a lot. I even heard some new stuff actually from them that sounds great. It's nice to see that they're still going.
They sound just as loud and angry as they did 25 years ago, which warms this old punk's heart. I love it.
Love it, Arthur. Well, of course, awesome stuff. As always, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you next week. All right, bud?
You got it, boys. Thanks a lot.
All right, Arthur. Take care.
Thanks, Arthur.
Folks, that was the great Arthur Staple of Hockey Night in New York and of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast with Mike Rupp and Johnny Lazarus. And that, of course, will do it for On the Line, presented by Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein, ready to fight when your good name is on the line. So with that, we're going to take one more break, and then we're going to keep the train rolling here with Hockey Night in New York. So we'll see you when we come back.
When in need of representation, it's not always easy to know where to turn. But whether you've been accused of a crime or need to go to court, Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein, attorneys at law, have you covered with over 100 years of combined experience. With offices in Manhattan, Mineola, and Suffolk, Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein is an award-winning law firm specializing in criminal defense with additional expertise in business debt settlement, trust and estates, personal injury, and more. At Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein, you'll have direct access to your attorney 24/7. Because more attentive service translates to better outcomes. You deserve legal representatives with national recognition and a strong track record of delivering results. And Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein are ready to fight for you. Call 212-LAW-1500 or go to razorandkniff.com to schedule a free, no-risk consultation today. That's RAISERANDKENNIFF.com. Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein. We win cases because we make your problems our problems.
Hey there, welcome back. We missed you too. Now kick up your feet and settle back in to Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, settle back in to Hockey Night in New York. You're watching and listening to Sean Cuthbert and old pal Mr. Tony Stabile here from Floored Media in Rockville Center. So, Tony, let's talk about what happened this past week a little bit here, right? You get 2 games against Tampa, both successful. You get a game against Colorado sandwiched in between. Very successful there as well. And the one bump in the road, of course, was this evening, dropping a game to the Florida Panthers. So let's touch on these games a little bit here. Let's rewind back to Tuesday against Tampa, 2-1 win there. That ended a 7-game winning streak for the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is a team who kind of vaulted back up to the top of the Eastern Conference in more recent history. So a nice little win. Now, granted, some injuries over there. Arthur noted that again in the interview. But again, this is a tough team. This is a team that's given the Islanders fits in the past, obviously, and they have a scoreless first there, but then Horvat, Shabanov, a little give and go there in the second. Horvat scores off his own rebound. That starts the scoring there, and Duclair gets his 4th on the season about 5:30 into the third, and they hang on for that 2-1 win.
Yeah, I mean, when you come into this week, you look at this, you had, Tampa on the long winning streak. You had Colorado on their long point streak.
17-game point streak?
17, yeah. It was 14-0-3, and, we had seen them in Colorado earlier in the month. And, I mean, you look at this stretch, and then you have to go to Florida, and you're saying, oh, man, like, this is a tough stretch. This is really where you're going to see if your team has got the chops or not. And I think that they came out of it with flying colors. I mean, you go, I know that they've, been a little banged up in Tampa, but I mean, coming on a 7-game winning streak, I mean, you're doing something right. Kucherov had I don't even know, he had like 20 points in his last like 12 games or whatever. He's been rolling, and they just have so many weapons there. I know Hedman's coming back into the lineup. I think his first game was against the Islanders the other night. So like you look at the way that this team has been playing, and to come out of it giving up 1 goal in 2 games, it's impressive no matter way you look at it. Sorokin played really well.
30 saves.
They just he kept them in the game when they needed to, and I mean, can you talk enough about Bo Horvat and how great he has been? I mean, 17 goals this season so far. He is, if anything, even if it's trying to get into that Olympic spotlight,
whatever the
whatnot,
motivation is,
whatever it is. I mean, the guy's been flat out fantastic. He's winning faceoffs. He's scoring on the power play, which last year was just unheard of. So real credit the fact that they were able to to break that streak with Tampa and then come out of it with that 2-1 win.
Yeah, for sure. Very encouraging there, and it's funny because you talk about how this team's been performing all year, and they've just been kind of thwarting expectations every time. So you rewind a couple of weeks back when the Islanders were heading on to that road trip, and Arthur and I were calling it a gauntlet, right? You looked at Vegas, Colorado, Utah being in there, right? And we were like, okay, this is going to be a big test, right? Vegas, and they pass it with flying colors. Granted, they go through some overtimes, but they get the wins, they get the points, and we're like, okay,
figuring out a way.
Look at this team, right? Then they come home for the homestand, and you got St. Louis in there, you got Seattle in there. You're like, okay, they can really build something here, but no, that's when they beat Seattle in the shootout, but they lose to St. Louis, they lose to Boston, right? They drop a couple of winnable games there, and you're like, okay, what's going on? And then you see this collection of games, you're like, all right, this is probably where they kind of come back to reality, right? They lose a couple games that maybe you thought they'd win. Now you got these tough teams coming in here. This is going to be tough, right? And then what do? They're like, no, we're good. They beat Tampa twice. They beat Colorado. I think it was the first game that Colorado lost by more than a goal. Obviously, the second game they lost in regulation. We just talked about the point streak that ended there, right? And the Islanders are like, no, bring it. We're good. So, and I said this to Arthur last week as well, whatever the results are, the Islanders have been in just about every game that they've played, barring question. 1 or 2. Maybe I noted it last week with Arthur, but I mean, when they went into Carolina, that one got away from them. They went into Minnesota, that one got away from them. But there was... I looked at the calendar, and most of the games, and even when you see like a 4-1 score, a 4-2 score, those are empty netters at the end of the game. And I mean, they pretty much have played 1-goal games for the vast majority of the season, win or lose. So they're in them, they're hanging with everybody. And, they took a step back against Florida today, second of back-to-backs. I mean, it was for Florida as well. But you're perfectly fine with that. You take the loss to Florida today knowing that you beat Tampa twice and you beat Colorado, right? So regroup after today and you're good to go, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the fact of is that these are 3 emotional games. 3. You had the game against Colorado, which, not only are you playing the best team in the NHL and with the best player in the NHL in Nathan McKinnon,
right?
But you got Brock Nelson coming back. And all of those guys in that room are all close with him. So you knew that was going to be, as Arthur said, a very emotional game.
Yes.
It played out that way. But they played their hearts out. I mean, you scored 6 goals.
Go up 4-0.
And Mackenzie Blackwood, okay, let's not discount the fact that guy had 2 shutouts and a 1-goal game. He had 1 goal in 3 games, coming off of the Wedgwood injury. I mean, he's really been playing well. So you look at that team. And then you have Schaefer, right, who I haven't said anything about. I absolutely love this kid. I love everything
Who
about
doesn't?
him. I
the
love
darling of Long Island.
Oh, he really is. But, you have Schaefer, who everybody now, the fun thing to do in the NHL and commentators is you want to compare Matthew Schaefer and Cale Makar. Okay, so now you got to play. You got to play him. That kid doesn't miss a beat. I mean, he doesn't. It's like he welcomes that pressure, and it's huge. The fact that that's what he's, that he's just hitting it head on and just going and keeping the train rolling.
One of the things I should say that impresses me so much about Matthew Schaefer is just his confidence and his poise. Like, he's unrattled, like at an 18-year-old. I was just scared of my own shadow when I was 18 years old. Exactly. And this kid goes out there playing against the top, competition in the NHL, and just nothing gets to him. And even if he makes a mistake, he doesn't let it go to his head. He's not like, oh man, I made that, bad play that led to a goal. He forgets about it and he's good to go. So if he has that mental fortitude now, he's going to grow into his body. He's going to become more adjusted to the NHL game. He's going to gain even more confidence. I mean, it's scary to think about just how good he still can become. Oh, yeah. Despite how good he already is.
Absolutely. He's 20 months older than my daughter. I look at that and I'm like, oh my God. But he really, I mean, he's just, you watch him out there, nothing bothers him. He makes a mistake. It's like, okay, it's part of the game. It's all right. I'll get it the next time.
Yeah.
And really, honestly, if you're watching him, and I mean, when I watch these games, I am plastered onto 48 when he's on that ice. And the mistakes he makes, I mean, they're 18-year-old mistakes, but they're little mistakes.
Right.
And the fact that his speed is absolutely ridiculous, he can make up for a lot of it. So, he does, and the fact that he knows where he needs to be on the ice, and his hockey IQ for an 18-year-old, I mean, you can make the argument that he's a top 20 or 15 defenseman in the NHL right now.
Correct.
It's incredible.
It is incredible.
Yes.
So just to put a bow on that Colorado game, just some minor notes. McLean, Pellick get their first goal. Obviously, Arthur brought the Pellick goal up during his interview. Nice to see those guys getting the score sheet. And then McLean's been playing better. I feel like earlier on when he got in spots, wasn't crazy about him necessarily, or even the fourth line, but obviously that's come along. And as Arthur noted during his interview, right now Cizikas, Gatcomb, and McLean have looked very well together.
Yes, absolutely they have. They have formed a very competent fourth line. As I said when we were talking to Arthur, like Casey had a real, real struggle early on in the season, but I feel like he's definitely turned his game around. I feel he's not a third line center. We all know this. He's a fourth line center. He's an excellent fourth line center. And, having Gatcomb out there, he said he's a spark plug. He's out there. He gives you everything he's got. He leaves everything on the ice. And whoever is going to be on that left side, it may be Siplikov again. And, once Pajot comes back, it could be how they juggle the lines up. But what's going to happen is that that fourth line is going to be in a good spot because you have 2 guys right now who are, have supplanted themselves on, playing with energy and being able to go out there and be effective. And that's what they need from that fourth line, because they got to take some minutes off of the top guys.
For sure. And one more note on that game is how huge was that Barzal power play goal where he cuts through the D? Beautiful goal there. And that was kind of like the insurance goal, because when you're up 2 goals on Colorado, you still need one more, right? Because there was a little bit of a nervous edge there when they made it 4-2, right? And you're like, oh man, and there's plenty of hockey left. And they even scored that early goal in the third period. So that Barzal goal late in the second was huge.
again, I wanted to bring this up with Arthur. I wanted to get his thoughts on it, but he is definitely, and he's put it perfectly. He's the most Matthew Barzal that he's been in a long, long time.
Right.
You know, I feel like the last few years they have tried to rein him in, and sometimes with a player like him, you just kind of have to let him go.
Yeah.
You know, like as long as he's doing, you know, there are guys who are two-way players. There are guys who aren't really that way. He's definitely much better than he was when he first came up defensively, and you know, knowing where to go and where to be and where not to be.
Yeah.
But the way he is right now, I mean, someone said early on in the season, I forget who predicted that Matthew Barzal was going to be a point per game player. I'm starting to think that is definitely a possibility for him.
Yeah, and it would be nice to see him get back there on a consistent basis. Obviously, we know the first season that he had, and then, you know, Barry Trotz kind of grinded him into a little bit more of a two-way player, which, you know, isn't the worst thing in the world, and they were winning games, so not a big deal. But I like what I'm seeing from him, just the pucks that are going on net. Mm-hmm. We know he can pass, we know he can dish, we know he can set guys up, but you see it, you know, in these games recently where he's you know, driving to the net, he's putting pucks on net, and they're ending up in the net. So I want to see more of that out of him.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about last night real quick. Scoreless through 2 periods there. The Islanders really weathering a storm there. They were outshot 21-12 at that point, and but they don't bend, they don't break, right? Mm-hmm. They pretty much hang with Tampa there. They get to the third period. We talked about the Ritchie goal there with Arthur. Beautiful goal. Great for that kid's confidence. And, you know, we got great stuff on him from Arthur there. But this is another big win. And Casey Cizikas 2 games in a row. Empty net goals.
Empty net goals.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not bad.
You know, listen, he's always on the ice in the end of those close games. And the fact that he's burying those empty net goals, he deserves them. There's very few players that work as hard as he does.
And what's great is he's busting his ass out there. Not that he never does, but it almost looks like he's hit another gear, because I know there's been some concern. I've seen it on social media. I've seen people saying, it's time to take Casey out of the lineup. He hasn't looked too good. In fact, even Arthur here on the show said, you know what, it may not be the worst thing in the world to rotate him out here and there. But I know Patrick Waugh apparently had a discussion with him. He joked about keeping it to himself like it's a secret, but maybe that's something that woke him up. But either way, he's definitely looked rejuvenated. He's playing pretty well here. He gets 2 empty net goals, so that's great on Casey. And the big stat of the night from last night was Ilya Sorokin matches Chico. 25 shutouts, now tied for the franchise lead in shutouts, and it's probably only a matter of time
it's definitely
until he passes him.
You know, Sorokin is funny because he's a guy who, when you could probably tell, like between probably like the middle of the game, if he's on his game, it's like no one's scoring tonight. And he's I mean, he's a young guy to have 25 shutouts already. And and when he was playing in Russia, he had the same thing. Every year it'd be 10, 12, 11 shutouts. And he was very, very good. And he's very focused, and he doesn't, you know, you don't really see those lapses in judgment early on in the year. Again, as we talked about a little bit, you know, he had those goals where every game would be like you give up one goal and you look at me like he really wants to have that one back, or how does he possibly let that one go in? But I really, honestly, he has really looked more like his old self in the last 2 or 3 weeks that, you know, he hasn't again since I feel like either the early part of last year or the late part of the season before.
Yeah, no question about it. So great to see he's back on his game. And, of course, fresh in our minds today, 5 o'clock start in Florida. Islanders dropped this one 4-1. He got an empty net goal there at the end by Reinhart. Seth Jones opened it up to make it 3-1 on a 2-on-1 during a 4-on-4 there in the third period. And of course, it wouldn't be an Islander game without giving up somebody's first goal of the season. That was Balinskis there that opened the scoring up. And what's that?
31st goal in 38 games.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
that sounds about right. And you obviously had the 2-0 goal, the Verhaeghe goal there, where a little giveaway from Shabanov in his own zone, and I believe he was taken off the ice there for a little bit.
He was. Yeah. He was dropped down a line. He was playing with Ritchie and Duclair after that. Yeah. So Patrick Waugh, I guess, was not very. I didn't get to see the play, but I will say that from the way it was described online, it was a double giveaway.
A double giveaway,
which is never a good thing, especially when you're playing.
One is bad enough, Tony.
The back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. That's usually not a good thing. But but he did that. I will say that I love Max Shabanov. I love the way he plays. I read a quote this week that Patrick Awa talked to Alex Radulov in the KHL, and it said that the kid doesn't realize that he's not tall, that he's not big. So I love the way he plays. He plays like a big guy, and and he's got a lot of skill. So I think we haven't seen everything that we can see out of Max Shabanov.
Agreed with you there. I love his game so far. Now, before we move on here, Tony, we did get an anthem from Arthur earlier, but I didn't want you to feel left out. So to round out the week here, we're going to do Tony's tune. So give me a song here that describes the recent play of the New York Islanders.
Well, I sat and I went through my through my library before earlier today.
Nickelback fan album?
I did, and I tried my best to find a Nickelback song in order to put,
Miss
but
you, Chad.
I couldn't do it. So, and I didn't want to do it just to say I did it. So, but I chose "Kickstart My Heart" by Motley Crue.
Oh, all right.
And I'll tell you why, because I feel like since the summer, obviously since the draft, picking up picking up that first pick, getting Matthew Schaefer, the changeover of the organization from Lou Lamoriello to Matthew Darche, it has been like an awakening for Islander fans. I feel reconnected to the team a little bit, where I feel like Lou kind of kept everybody at arm's length. Matthew Darche and the ownership group has wanted to bring the fan base a little bit closer to the team. Yeah. We've seen it on YouTube with different things that they have in their
on the island, great stuff.
And social media has been a big thing, and I feel like with the fans reconnecting with the team and the youthful, energy that we've seen so far, and the fact that they went in and they kicked ass this week against Tampa and Colorado, I feel like the fan base is pumped. And Kickstart My Heart was
so the Islanders have kickstarted your heart.
They absolutely.
It's beating fast.
It's Matthew Schaefer has kickstarted my heart. Really, no, seriously.
Everybody has fallen in love with Matthew Schaefer.
It has been. It's amazing. But I mean, really the whole team is there. There's so much fun to watch. They're having fun out there, and I really feel like for the first time in years, and look, they were great under Barry, and they had a really good run to the playoffs when Watt took over. But I mean, let's be honest, this is the most fun that we've had as Islander fans in quite some time, because it's not just about the score at the end of the game. They're in these games, they're putting pressure, and they're a lot of fun to watch.
Future's bright, man.
Yes, sir.
So, Tony, love to hear that you have somebody else in your library other than Nickelback.
Yeah,
and proud of you for selecting a song by a band other than Nickelback.
No, I appreciate that. But if you ever have me on again, I can't guarantee anything.
That I know. That I know for a fact. So that was Tony's tune. That'll do it for the recaps. And now we're going to go into what's on tap. Cue it up. Oh, that's right. We're not coming out of break here, so I don't have any music. All right, so what's on tap? 3-game homestand. 6 of the next 8 games are at home, so that's nice. We'll see if we get some cooking going on there. Tuesday, Vegas comes to town. 7 p.m. start. Among the best in the West. They're on a 3-game winning streak heading into tonight versus the Rangers. Hopefully they make that 4. And look, you're coming off of that 4-3 overtime win in Vegas not too long ago, so we've seen them before. We know what they bring. They got Marner over there now. What do you see there, Tony?
I mean, it feels like every year, Vegas brings in another $9 or $10 million player. So I don't know how they do it. I don't know how the finances work in Vegas, but it's amazing.
The most successful the highest success rate of any team coming in from their first year, to however many years they've been in the league now. What, like 10, whatever the hell it's been, right? 8 years, 7 years, whatever the hell it's been, right? 7, 8 years.
It's longer than we think.
But the team has been a contender essentially every season they play hockey.
Absolutely,
it's unbelievable.
They went to the finals the first year.
Yeah.
Okay, so you look at this team, right? They make these moves. They bring Robin Leonard in. He kind of just disappeared.
Yeah.
Right. They signed him to that contract, and then he gets hurt. He's not able to play anymore.
Right.
And now they have Carter. They got Carter Hart playing now. He's back. From that whole unfortunate situation in Canada where, he was out for 18 months or whatnot. So he's back there. You have Marner. You have Eichel. Like they have a tremendous team.
And everybody wants to play for them.
And Mark Stone comes in. He scores like 30 points in 9 games, and then goes out and he's out for 3 months.
Takes a vacation on the LTIR, and then he comes back for the playoffs. Right.
So so they have an amazing organization there. I understand that going and seeing a game there, which I haven't been able to do yet, is basically like the greatest hockey experience that there is.
Yeah,
at this
I want to
point.
check it out.
Have to get there because that we should make a road trip like we did to Minnesota.
Road trip? How about we hop on a plane?
Well, we could do. Well, it's the same thing.
I don't know if I can take the time off to go on the road with you there. That's a long drive.
It is a long drive.
I'd rather fly.
Is. But we could fly.
Okay.
We'll use miles. It's good. So
right, we'll hit up Expedia and we'll figure it out. Okay.
But yeah, so Vegas is definitely a. They're a top team, and they're fun to watch, and we should get out there and check them out
one day, Tony.
Yeah, one day.
Speaking of top teams, the Anaheim Ducks coming to town on Thursday. That's a 7 p.m. start. Top of the Pacific over there, and they've been playing very well as well. Top of the Pacific heading into their game tonight against the Hawks. So we'll see how that pans out. We don't care because that's two Western Conference teams. But this is a rejuvenated team, good young team. Quenneville comes in. He's got this team playing excellent over there. You have Carlson, Gauthier, Terry mixed in with some Kreider and Trouba. It's kind of Rangers West over there. Trouba's been unbelievable since he's ended up over there. Yes. And Kreider just picked up where he left off, another great player. And you just have a nice mix, a nice balance. It's almost like a lot of fresh faces coming in during a short period of time, and it's the right formula, and it works.
Pat Verbeek has done a really, really good job. They have some great young talent, as you mentioned, in Leo Carlson and Cutter Gauthier, and to bring in really strong character guys in Kreider and Trouba, like it's been excellent. Radko Gudas is there. He's been a very big part of what's gone on, culture-wise.
Got to see, right?
He's got to see, yes. Which
you got Roscoe Johnston over there.
He is still there, yeah. He's been playing well too.
So I've heard.
So, but they have a really good mix. Bringing in Trouba and Kreider has been. I mean, it's been genius on Verbeek's part, and they're just like the Islanders. They're a very fun team to watch, and I'll be very interested to see if they're able to keep it up over the course of the season.
I got a bad feeling about that one, Tony.
I do too.
I think the Islanders are going to get smoked on Thursday by the Ducks.
Really,
and especially after me saying they've been in every game, and listen, I hope they prove me wrong. I don't want to be right, but I just have this feeling that the Ducks are going to come in and just clean the floor with the Islanders.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I'll remain optimistic.
I don't.
It's just the vibe I got.
It's and listen, you're entitled to your vibe.
Thank you.
I don't agree with it, but you're entitled to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And to round out the week, just when you thought you couldn't get enough Tampa Bay Lightning, buddy, they're playing Tampa Bay again,
and they're back
3 times in about 3.5 days. And this is an opportunity for the Islanders to sweep the series. So that would be nice. What that means, not much. But to get 3 wins against Tampa would be nice. We don't really got to talk about them because we've seen them twice in like the last 3 days. So
I would say that that's the game that really worries me because you played them twice, and now Tampa's like, okay,
right,
took advantage of us twice. Yeah. Kucherov is only day to day. So it could be back this week, and as I said earlier,
that'll be the game he comes back for.
Well, and again, he's been on fire recently. So I mean, I can't even count how many multiple point games he's had in the last month.
Right.
So he's been playing excellent, and he's a perennial MVP guy. He's a perennial MVP candidate every single season for a reason. So that would be the game that worries me the most.
So there you have it: Vegas, Anaheim, and Tampa. Another week that is not going to be easy for the Islanders, but as they've proven, they can handle difficulty.
I like Anders Lee's comment from after the game the other night that we could skate with anybody. He's
right. Barzell said that too. They have confidence. They're feeling good. You like to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for What's on Tap. Now we're going to move on into Hero of the Week. That's right. It's time to talk positively about some players on the New York Islanders. And Hero of the Week is presented by Knock Hockey. That's right. They have a flash sale going on from the 9th to the 15th. 20% off Stars and Stripes games, including the Knock Hockey board. Go to knockhockey.com to take advantage of that sale and get your Knock Hockey board in time for the holidays. So, Tony, you know the drill here. We've been doing Hero of the Week now for 12, 13 years on this show, going all the way back to when you were on it with me. So I'm going to have you go first, man. I'm going to have you do the honors. What do you got for us?
My hero this week is, I think, is kind of an easy one. It's Ilya Sorokin. I mean,
love it. Sure.
Sorokin played two extremely extremely solid games against a high-tempo offense in Tampa Bay. I know they only had Kucherov for one of the 2 games, but they are, there are so many weapons between point and Jake Gensel now, and it's such a they're always such a strong team. John Cooper is he's a phenomenal coach. They're a well coached team. So Sorokin.
Is Tampa your hero or Sorokin?
Well, no, I'm getting to that point. It's just kind of saying.
All right, just making sure.
Well, he played really well against a very good team.
Yeah, he did.
So he gives up the one goal early on in the week yesterday. He has a shutout, as you said. He tied Chico Resch with 25 shutouts.
That's
right. A huge deal for him.
That's right.
I feel like Sorokin is really going to be kind of the staple of this whole team. They have offense, they have defense, they have this youth. Was coaching the hell out of this team, but you need Sorokin back there every night. I feel like he is definitely the hero this week because of the way that he handled the Lightning the way.
I
especially
love it.
Off of the winning streak.
No question about it. I love it. Definitely worthy of the honor of Tony's hero of the week. Now we're going to get to Sean's hero. And that is Casey Cizikas. I was talking about him before, so I'll just reiterate. He obviously had the 2 empty net goals here, and as I said, just a guy who looks rejuvenated out there. The effort's there. He's clicking with Gatcomb and McLean, and I think he deserves a little credit, especially after kind of coming out to a slow start and again getting ribbed a little bit from the fan base, and even here saying, hey, maybe it's time to plug him out. But he's kind of picked up his game. He's playing well. So I figured this is a guy who just needs to get some recognition. So that's my hero, Casey Cizikas.
Love it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for chiming in on that. So that will do it for Hero of the Week, presented by Knock Hockey. There is still time to get your board for the holidays. That's right, flash sale for Stars and Stripes games from the 9th to the 15th. 20% off all Stars and Stripes games, including the Knock Hockey Stars and Stripes board. So go to knockhockey.com to get yours today. And now we go to the Snake Den.
Welcome to the Snake Den with Jake the Snake Radonis.
That's right, folks. It's time for the Snake Den with Mr. Jake the Snake Radonis. Jake, pleasure to have you here, buddy. How you doing?
Doing great. I went to that Islanders Avalanche game the other night, so I guess I picked the game of the season for them.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy yourself?
I definitely enjoyed myself.
What
yes.
was your favorite part?
The Barzell goal. That was disgusting.
Yeah, that was real nice.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. Oh, my goodness, indeed. So, Jake, what are we doing today? Are we going around the boards? We keeping it in the system? What do you got?
We're going to keep it in the system.
Okay.
We have some international hockey coming up at the end of the month.
We
so
do.
I figured let's talk about some of these prospects who might be playing in that. They just get camp invites for World Juniors. So that World Juniors is in Minnesota this year. December 26th to January 5th. And for the USA, we got Cole Eiserman going there. He's at BU with Camille Bednarik, who's also invited this year, too.
Love that.
Eiserman also scored again last night. I know we like to talk about when he scores because he does it a lot.
Yes, he's not just going to school.
Yes. Then we have Jacob Kavasnika, I believe is how you pronounce it.
It is today.
It's close.
It is today.
It's close enough.
Yeah.
He's the 7th round pick from this draft this year.
Okay.
He's playing over in the Western. 13 goals, 20 assists for 33 points in 27 games.
That's good.
Got himself an invite, which is pretty cool for a 7th round guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Then Canada, Kashawn Aitchison. He'll be there.
Yeah.
He's got 15 points in his last 10 games.
Jeez.
And
his offense is exploding right now. It's amazing.
And you think with the defenseman, it's probably mostly assists. He's got 8 goals, 7 assists.
Unreal. Love it.
It is unreal. Yeah. He's the only one actually representing Canada for them.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Then for the Czech, we got Thomas Politin, who's 4th round pick this year. Mm-hmm. He's also playing in the Western League. 14 goals, 11 assists, 25 points in 25 games. So another point per game guy. Obviously, it's a junior league, so it's a little different.
I think he's the captain of that team, too, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe he is, yes. Mm-hmm. And then Sweden, Victor Eklund. So another 1st round pick from this year.
Man. Mm-hmm.
He'll be there. Last 10 games in Sweden, he's got 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in 10 games. I know when we were talking about him earlier in the season, he wasn't scoring any goals.
Right, that's right.
Assists, so it's definitely nice to see that he's got a couple.
Yeah, it took
by
a little
now.
time, but that's good stuff.
Yeah, so that's everyone who's going to World Juniors. Then you
Okay.
have some guys who aged out from the U20. So that would be Danny Nelson, Quinn Finley. They are representing the United States, however, in the Spangler Cup.
Okay.
Which is club teams over in Switzerland and a couple other teams in Europe
Okay.
will play there. They're actually doing an NCAA team this year. So they got
Nice.
selected to represent the United States for that. So A lot of prospects playing some international hockey, which I think is a great thing for them to get out there and play against upper echelon talent and represent your country. And last year, you saw Cole Eiserman and Danny Nelson win it, which was pretty cool. So
yes,
I mean, we're rooting for the U.S. So let's see if they could do it again.
And we're talking Spangler Cup here on Hockey Night New York. Who knew?
Thought you'd never see it, but here we are.
Yeah, we are.
So is that it for in the system?
That is it.
So. All right, you were here listening for what's on tap. You got Vegas, you got Anaheim, and you got, who the hell was the Tampa, of course. What do you got for that? You're a betting man.
Yeah, I think I would take Vegas is probably going to win that one.
Oh, okay.
If I had to pick there.
Okay, that's fine.
I actually think they're going to beat the Ducks.
Okay.
I could see that being a high-scoring game, too.
I could see that.
I don't know if that's going to be a Sorokin game or a Riddick game.
Right.
I could see it being high-scoring and also an overtime game. And then the Lightning, give us the sweep.
Let's get the sweep.
Let's get the sweep.
Sweep would be nice.
Love it.
That would be
Love
nice.
the positivity. All right, so there you have it, folks. 2 in 1 week from Jake the Snake Radonis. Put your money on it, and then blame him when he's wrong.
Blame me.
All right, so that's going to do it for the Snake Den with Jake the Snake Radonis. And now I'm going to tell you all about Isles Fix. That's right, Islanders Country. Get your daily fix of Isles news, highlights, and analysis by subscribing to Isles Fix, the Monday through Friday Islanders newsletter sent directly to your inbox. That's right, sign up for free or become a paid subscriber for added benefits at islesfix.substack.com. And now we go to Questions Brewing.
It's time for Questions Brewing. So go ahead, ask us a question.
Bam! Edzo,
yes.
How we doing, pal?
Doing fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hanging in there?
Happy to see Tony again. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a bit.
Tony the Tiger.
It's been a bit, Tony.
Yes, it
here.
has.
Yes.
That's
Yes, it
right.
has.
Well, Ed,
So,
how are you? You already said how you're doing. So what do you
Yeah.
got in the chat for us?
I want to start off just combining 2 questions.
Sure.
Just because why not? So,
Why not?
The first half is from DTMR. He says, with the limited ice time for Mitchell, will Warren or George, if healthy, be getting the call-up? And Bobber says, what's your take on George? Did he fall out of favor with the organization and down the depth chart?
I don't know if George has fallen out of favor. I think it's more just some other guys stepping up, right? I mean, Warren, Mitchell, as you just mentioned, and I think it's just a matter of time before George gets his next shot. I think it's just more other guys impressing, right? Whether it's through camp, whether it's through playing at the Bridge. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a guy who's eventually going to get back in there, and it's nice to kind of have this surprise wealth of Bridgeport depth, right? Guys that you can bring up and not only plug into the lineup, but actually perform admirably, right? Warren was good when he came up. I think Mitchell's been fine. I haven't seen too many mistakes in his game, and he's been playing a quiet game. But also, he's got a big body. He's been using it. He's been playing tough out there. He hasn't been intimidated. So, I think this is all positive for the Isles.
Yeah, I mean, I think Patrick Wallet really likes the game that Boquist have been playing. So I think you'll see him probably get the majority of the 6th spot for the time being. I believe today the reason why Mitchell was in the lineup is that it was Dad's weekend and they wanted everybody to get a chance to play. So
okay.
So I think that's the reason why Mitchell was in today. But it is, I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that Isaiah George has fallen out of favor. I think it's just that Marshall Warren has taken that step up. And if you're not going to play. If you're not going to have Warren or George playing on a regular shift on those first 2 defensive pairings,
right,
it's probably better just to keep him at Bridgeport and continue to let him learn. I mean, Rocky Thompson's done a really nice job down there so far this season.
They're winning games.
Which is, I mean, that's a complete change considering that they haven't. I don't remember the last time they won a game before this year.
It had been a while.
It's been a bit. So, but I have. I think that the idea is that they like the fact that Warren and George are getting major minutes down there, and that's what they need. They need experience. So. I don't think it really has to do with the fact that they don't like him anymore. They feel that he's not going to be an NHL player. I think they just rather him play the big minutes down there.
There you have it, and it's a great problem to have. And listen, when the Islanders are really going to start structuring this roster to contend even more than they are right now, because they're contending more than we thought at this point, right? But there's still a game plan, right? And you can't put all these guys in the lineup.
Right.
So if they all continue to develop, they all continue to play well, they become a trade chip. they become a guy who you can include in a deal for somebody who's gonna help this team, further up the lineup, right? So I think this is all positive stuff.
Absolutely, or it's gonna force the team in order to make a decision on maybe on a more of a veteran player,
right?
You're gonna have to look and see, do we have to move one of these guys out because Isaiah George or Marshall Warren is forcing us to make that decision. So that's all you can ask of your younger players. You want them to come in and you want them to make that decision hard. Isaiah George did that last year, even though he did end up going back at the end of the season.
Right.
But it was a smart thing, and I feel like they have a plan in place for these guys, and they're sticking to it. So I mean, let them go down and play those minutes.
There you go, Edzo. What do you got?
Tony, you talked earlier about Barzal and how he's looked the most Barzal he's been in a while. So I'm curious to know your take from Brandon Paul here. He says, Barzal is my favorite player. He has so much skill, but every game he's doing too much, and it's leading to turnovers. Do you think coaching sees it and will tell him to do less?
No, I feel like 2 years ago, yes, they definitely would have done that. But I feel like now, Patrick Roy is kind of giving him, as we talked about with Arthur, he's giving him the freedom to go out there and kind of be, his own player and kind of, I think the term that Arthur used was unleash. And that's what you want from a player with that type of skill. So I think that the turnovers are obviously part of when you play that kind of a game. He has always struggled with the idea that, he does do too much with the puck. He stays on with too long. He holds on to it too long. It does happen. It's like little spells that he has of this. But
sure.
I feel that as now he's 10 years into the league and now he's got a little bit more of a leadership role, I feel like now maybe those will just, it'll start to be less and less because he isn't having to take so many chances. And now he's not the only person on this team that can score, because you have guys like Drew and Horvat and Duclair. I mean, if he can be a little bit more consistent, but you have other guys that can put the puck in the net. And I feel like if he does that, then he won't have to hang on to the puck and try to do it all by himself.
Yeah, and listen, he have a habit of ragging the puck a little more than he should every now and then, sure. But at the same time, like, I think you just accept that because the guy is so highly skilled. The guy sees the ice so well. And yeah, maybe every now and then he's looking for the pass a little more than he needs to. Maybe just either fire a shot off himself or just dish to somebody, let somebody, have the puck for a little bit there. But what do you got?
I was going to say that I agree. I think that's the biggest thing in his game that's changed is that he does look for the shot more than he did when he was younger.
It's definitely improved. Like, it's definitely, for him, the pacing has been improved as far as him putting more pucks on net, right? We talked about that earlier as well. So I think that's good. But at the end of the day, the coaching staff knows what they're getting from him, and more times than not, it's positive. More times than not, it's helping this team on the ice. Mm-hmm. If he's dilly-dallying around the zone a little bit, I think you just come to accept it because that's part of his skill set, and that's just part of him not only getting himself open, dodging players on the ice, but also just looking for that pass and that play. And you know what? He finds it. Mm-hmm. So there you have it.
Yep.
State of Survival, he says, what was Mitchell doing out there? He threw the whole tempo off. Why did Wab put Tony D out on the 4-on-4? He didn't even try to defend.
Well, these things are going to happen. You talk about these young guys, and there's going to be rookie mistakes. There's going to be issues here. And even though I just got done saying that I like how Mitchell has been so far, I mean, this is what you come to expect with a fresh guy coming up here. And unfortunately, they're not always going to make the right play. And that's just a product of a young guy trying to find his way.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 5 games of NHL experience, so it's that those kind of things do happen. You have to kind of take the good with the bad. I don't think that he's the reason why they lost the game today, but when you bring younger players like this in, there are going to be mistakes, and you just have to hope that they learn from them and that they will be able to move on from them.
There you go.
Jeremy said, aside from unexpected injuries, who do you think will be around in 3 to 4 years' time when Schaefer enters his prime from the current lineup?
I think that's a great question.
That's a very good question.
I think you're seeing you have the simple core of Barzal, Horvat, and Sorokin, right? Those guys aren't going anywhere, right?
And they sign long term, so yeah.
Right, for sure. But then you look at guys like HNiNY, he's absolutely part of the plan here. Mm-hmm. Going down the lineup. I mean, look, Paul Mary just got signed to that 2-year deal. I think that's probably his swan song here with the team. It's funny, how often have people been talking about J.G. Pageau getting dealt at this deadline, assuming the Islanders weren't going to be in it, right? And, I kind of played devil's advocate with Arthur in an earlier show this season, being like, hey, is this a guy that they even consider extending? If let's say that they keep playing the way they are, they find themselves in a playoff spot, they're not going to deal him at the deadline if they are. And he's another guy who's kind of rejuvenated himself this year. He had been playing great before he got hurt. So he's obviously not going to be part of the long-term core because his age just isn't going to allow for it. But I think you're seeing pieces here, that have been brought in like HNiNY. I mean, look, I think HNiNY is going to be an excellent player. I think Eklund is going to be an excellent player. I mean, just, names popping up. Ritchie, absolutely. We're seeing this kid develop before our very eyes. And as Arthur stated earlier, this is a guy who has a very good chance of slotting in as that second-line center and essentially being Brock Nelson's replacement. Or, again, giving this team flexibility where Barzal doesn't necessarily have to play center, where he can go on Horvat's wing if he need. So, yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, without looking at the roster in front of me, Heineman's going to be a part of it. Ritchie's going to be a part of it. Schaefer goes without saying. You have the obvious guys. I don't know if there's anybody I haven't named here that you're thinking of.
No, I mean, on the defense, I think you're going to start to see a change over.
That's the biggest question.
That's probably where you'll see the most turnover is where you have a guy like George, you have a guy like Marshall Warren. You do have Aitchison that's going to end up coming through here soon. Schaefer is obviously going to be here. So, is Mayfield going to make it through his whole deal? That's tough to think about.
I think we're going to have to see a guy or two come from outside the organization to join that decor, right? I don't think Tony DeAngelo is a long-term answer here. No. He only got the 1-year deal. I'd be half surprised if he stayed beyond this year, right? The right side on the D side is the one that they really have to, focus in on and figure out. I mean, everybody loves Scotty Mayfield. All right, maybe I don't speak for everybody, but look, he's been a good soldier. He's been a part of this team for a very long time. He still has some years on his contract because Lou gave him a nice little extension there. But I don't think that Mayfield, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. But you look at the right side of the defense. Pulock's been playing better. You have him and Pelech now, who they're in their 30s. If they continue this way, then maybe they make a case because current Pelech and Pulock right now, they're a great value for their contracts. They're fine with the cap going up. Like if those guys continue to play this way, like I don't mind having them there. Right. And at least they're a stopgap until Darsh finds the right guys to bring in, right? Because bringing in, veteran D that can help this team out, it's going to be hard to do. But the good thing is we know that Darsh has a plan, right? Those 2-year deals, those max 2-year deals that he gave out were very purpose-driven in the sense that I want to keep roster flexibility, I want to keep cap flexibility. And, I think that we're going to see, a plan come into formation here where he's eventually going to figure out who's expendable, and I don't say that in a negative way. I just mean who's excess, who are guys that I can't wedge into this roster that I can use as trade chips to bring in guys that are going to help whatever this core ends up being, right? But I think we're seeing a foundation being set there. Drouin's a complimentary piece. I don't know if he's going to be here beyond the 2 years he was signed, right? Like there's plenty of guys who are kind of just serving the now. Right, and I think we're going to see Darsh, bring in some guys, hopefully some mid to late 20s guys, that can help this team, whether it's on the D side, whether it's on the forward side. But like we're seeing a core being formed here, and I'm very excited to see what the plan is to complement that core.
Absolutely, and you have, you not only do you have this stable of prospects that we haven't seen here in quite some time,
right?
But now you have another 2 first-round picks next year,
right? Okay? Exactly.
So that's another chip right there. Yeah. If you choose to use it, you have all your picks next year. It's you're gonna have opportunity to bring in these younger players, and then you're also gonna, by having the younger guys on your team, it's gonna give you the opportunity to use that extra cap space on maybe bringing in a big time free agent or through a trade or whatever it may be.
And because of the ages of guys like Barzal, Horvat, and Sorokin, This has to happen sooner than later.
Correct.
Like if they're going to take advantage of whatever prime years are left for these guys, not to say that they're approaching over the hill status here, but they're not 25 anymore. They're not 26 anymore, right? They're approaching that like latter part of their prime years, right? And so, as core pieces of this team, that means they have to bring in the right guys to complement those guys at the right time, which is within the next 2 years, essentially, right?
Which is, I think, the reason, like you said, why Darsh decided to make take those contracts and cap them in 2 years, because he wants to see where they're at in the 2 years and where what they're going to have to bring in and what they're going to have to ship out.
I think that there's even some core pieces that aren't even within the organization right now. He brought in a guy like HNiNY who will be, and I think there's going to be more guys like that. Ed.
Next few we got are all from Jeremy. So
okay,
he's got great questions. He always speaks in class. He said, if a team came asking you for Pelech around the trade deadline, would you be interested in moving him?
Well, after everything that we just said, you can sell high on him. That's for sure. Like, if they fall out, I think you have to seriously consider doing that. Because, again, wrong side of 30. He's upped his value this season so far. He's a guy who can definitely help a team who is looking to go on a playoff run.
And he's extremely injury prone.
Well, yes, but that's not the Islanders' problem.
No. Meaning for the Islanders.
Right, I got
he's
you.
He's extremely injury prone.
Yes.
Every year he seems to magically figure out a new way to be out of it for 3 months.
Playing soccer out in the hallway or whatever it is. Yeah.
So I mean, yes, he's that's his unfortunately, and I don't mean to make fun, but that's his Achilles heel is that he always finds a way to get hurt.
Right.
Pulock is a little different. He plays a little bit more of a shot blocking type of.
He's had an injury history too, man.
He does, and that's part of the problem. So the best thing I could say about him at the deadline is, what are they offering? Because you look at what they got for Brock Nelson. There's no way that they couldn't take that deal for Nelson.
Right.
There was no way. So you have to look at it the same way. If some team comes knocking and says, "Hey, we'll give you a first round pick and one of our top 3 prospects for Adam Pelech," you really have to consider that because as fun as they are right now.
Yeah.
Are they a Stanley Cup contending team this season? You don't know.
Listen, if they're in it at the deadline, nobody's going anywhere. If they're out of it, then I think that's something you heavily consider for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy also says, could you see Schaefer, Aitchison, Romanov, George be the left side for years to come if they move on from Pelech, or do they wait on moving Pelech until Aitchison has a couple years under his belt?
I mean, look, it's really you have to wait and see how the dominoes fall, right? You have to see how those guys develop. You have to see what Romanov is when he comes back too. And then, we kind of left him out of the discussion here. The guy got hurt, and because they're actually doing pretty well without him, right? That's not to say I
love the guy too, and I just
when he's on his game, he's a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
Yes,
and unfortunately, he struggled earlier this year, and then if he was starting to come back, he gets hurt, right? So he's going to have to find his game whenever he comes back, and that's going to be in a while. So you kind of have a logjam on the left side if these guys pan out, right? You have Schaefer there. Aitchison looks like he's going to be great. We know that George, Warren, guys like that can be at the very least complementary pieces. We don't know if they're going to be solid top 6 guys yet. But again, there's only 3 spots if we're only focused on the left side here. Does somebody maybe play their offside? Sure, could happen. Mm-hmm. But you have to see where things go, and maybe a Pelech deal gets fast tracked if they fall on their face and they end up out of it at the deadline. Maybe it makes it easier for Darce to be like, you know what, this guy's playing great. He's not gonna be any more valuable than he is now. Mm-hmm. This is a guy I have to deal, right? And you understand that, even if it might be a hard pill to swallow, right?
Sure.
But I think we really just have to see not only where the Islanders standing is, but also just how these guys are developing through the system. Because even though you're seeing promise from guys like George and Warren now, we've seen guys do that in the past, and then all of a sudden they disappear off the face of the earth, right?
Flat on their face.
So you gotta just you can't be hasty with it. You have to see where these guys end up. Right now things look good. Let's see if they still do, and we'll find out.
And I mean, if you look at it for this year as an example, I mean, in training camp and before training camp, they were talking about Schaefer like, well, maybe he just gets to 9 games.
That's what I was saying.
And then all of a sudden, he's the number 1 defenseman by the time you get to game 10.
Right.
So if Aitchison comes up and he's a force, then you have to change the plan. But until something like that happens,
exactly.
But Aitchison has the ability and the ceiling that he's going to be able to come in and do something like that. Now, will he is a different story. But if you have those players that if Isaiah George comes in, he's going to be a very solid defenseman. Is he going to be a 50-point guy? Most likely not. Warren the same thing.
Right.
But Aitchison is that kind of ceiling. So when he comes in, you have to kind of just see how he is. If he's he's going to take the bull by the horns the way Schaefer did, then you have to make a quick decision.
There you go. So Ed, if you have one more quick one from Jeremy, we can do it. Otherwise, we got to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I mean, no more from Jeremy, but I wanted to get Tom in here, even though Tom didn't have a question per se. But I'm curious to know your take. He had a statement. I'm just curious your take on this. He says George is a bust. I would let his contract. I would let his contract end and not sign him.
Wow.
His trade value is 0.
Wow.
Okay.
You know whose trade value is zero?
I'm glad you snuck that one in.
My trade value is
My trade value is zero.
My trade value is zero.
Sean, even less so.
That is. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Those are some strong words from T. Boyle, but I expect nothing less. I would say maybe pump the brakes on that. But the good news is not something the Islanders really have to worry about right now as far as the main squad. So, Tom, thank you for the passionate words. I hope you're wrong.
So does
but we do
George.
thank you for sharing here, because we do like it when you share here on Hockey Night in New York.
Just, I felt wrong him not being in the question.
No, you got to get T. Boyle in, so we appreciate it. But we'll see. I think the jury's still out on George. I think we'll find out.
I would say yes.
I'm going to disagree.
He's
respectfully
like 20
disagree.
years
Tom.
old. Yeah,
we
probably got some time to make a decision on that.
All right. Well, as always, thank you guys for the questions and questions, Bruin. Always a lot of fun and great way to wrap up there with T. Boyle. And now, speaking of wrapping up, we're going to wrap up this little show. So, folks, thank you all so much for tuning in to Hockey Night in New York. Another wonderful adventure here at Florida Media in Rockville Center. Always a blast. And a huge thanks to my good pal here, Tony Stabile, for filling the seat here for Arthur Staple. Great to see you, buddy. Great chatting Islanders with you again. Hope you had a good time.
I had a great time. Thanks for having me. And, Arthur, your seat's right here waiting for you, bud.
There you go. And, of course, a big thanks to Arthur Staple for flying in through Zoom to talk to us here in the chat. Great spot from him. As always, if you haven't checked him out here, also check him out at the Tri-State Hockey Podcast. And of course, a big thanks to our sponsors, starting with Knock Hockey. Once again, flash sale from the 9th to the 15th. Stars and Stripes games, 20% off, including the Knock Hockey board. Go to Knock Hockey, NOKHockey.com to get yours today in time for the holidays. Also, a big thanks to Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein, attorneys at law, ready to fight for you. Nobody likes going to court, but hey, if you have to, call 212-LAW-1500 for a free consultation. And folks, if you haven't already, please rate, review, and subscribe, and let us know how much you enjoy hearing the soothing sounds of Sean Cuthbert and Arthur Staple and Jake Rodonis and Edzo back there on Hockey Night in New York. Tony Stabile, you still flying around social media, buddy?
I am still.
You want to plug your
sure.
Twitter account?
I'm still on social media at Tony Stabile. I'm still around, still talking hockey and
know how it feels to be Tony Stabile
whenever they ask.
Okay, excellent stuff. Jake the Snake Rodonis, where can we find you?
At Jake Rodonis, RADONIS on X. I also have that trivia question.
Trivia question.
Let's
go.
Let's go for it.
Who did the Islanders trade for Ray Ferraro? Was it Pat LaFontaine, Brent Sutter, Steve Thomas, or Doug Crossman?
Let me go first, because I think Tony has a better chance of getting this right. But given the options, I was able to narrow this down. It had to be Crossman, right?
It was Crossman.
Yes, it was Crossman. In 1990 to the Whalers.
Okay, because I know who the other guys were traded for. So that was an easy one. Well, good stuff there. Doug Crossman, man, haven't heard that name in a while.
And it's a long time. He had a great season the 1 year that he was here.
Yes, he did. So you can follow me on the Twitter and Blue Sky at Shawnee Hockey. You can follow the show on all social media platforms at Hockey Night NY. You can check out the website at HockeyNightNY.com. So for Tony Stabile, for Jake the Snake Rodonis, for Edzo, for myself, Sean Cuthbert, we've been Hockey Night New York. We will see you next Monday for our next episode. Arthur will be back. And until then, enjoy yourself. We'll see you next week.